Welcome everybody to Kingdom Talks. We have a special guest with us. This is Rochelle Wilson, and you are Carissa. You've come all the way here from San Jose, right?
Yes, that's right.
And we're going to find out what's going on here. We are actually in Spokane, Washington, and this is a very special time for my wife because she is getting some RSM.
Mm-hmm.
Which
It's been awesome.
So I'm going to just kind of go with the flow on this. And I know we talked a little bit before, because I want to learn more about what you're doing. Adine is actually experiencing it.
Right.
But why don't you go ahead and just share with us, if anybody out there who's watching, they're curious what's going to happen, what's going on, because they're obviously just tuning in right now. And they're wondering, who are these people and what do they do? And why are they on the show?
Right.
But we are happy to have you on the show because you're
Thank
doing
you.
something that's very powerful. So go ahead and introduce yourself, maybe a little bit of background and how you got to where you're at.
Okay, thank you, Gil and Adina. It is a blessing for us to be here today to share with the people who are tuning in here. Your followers, your people that you're equipping for the kingdom, and so I really thank you for this opportunity. You're very brave. You're on the forefront, and every time you do one of these, I just watch them. It's like, wow, you guys are being brave for the kingdom of God, and that can be a challenging place to be in, where God has you with your mantle. And so I'm Rochelle Wilson, and the founder of Retracing Sequence Method, easier to say, RSM, and it's Christian Neuro-Emotional Therapy. And so to unpack that, we'll unpack that as we go. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And then Carissa Stafford, soon to be Carissa Kirk. That's right. Pretty exciting things going on.
Yeah, when's that happening?
Yes, in June we're excited.
Yes,
Awesome.
very.
Congratulations.
God's doing
Thanks.
some amazing things here. And so she'll be sharing to her position as the director of RSM training and what the Lord is doing in expansion nationally and around the world with what we're doing. So
Awesome.
God is on the
Very good.
move. He's not a God of status quo. And status quo can be easier, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, get comfortable, get settled in.
That's right. But for such a time as this, I think the challenge for all of us is to be able to listen to God and go higher, go further, and deeper. And I think that's what we're doing. We're going deeper so that we can go higher.
That's good.
Do you want to say, something about who you are, my dear?
About who I am. I'm from San Jose, California. I think that's been mentioned. And as director of training, working alongside Rochelle, it's just such a privilege to be here sitting with you guys as well. Thank you so much for having us here. And
Glad to have you both on.
Thank you.
So, Adina, you've been experiencing something. You want to just touch on it, but because I want them to explain a
You
little
want me
bit
to
more.
spill my guts?
Yeah, there you go. Put it all out there.
No, it's been amazing just having 2 sessions with you already and going to have a couple more this afternoon. I've been, tried many different methods, and all of them have been helpful to a degree or another.
Mhm.
I really appreciate about this where it involves muscle testing, so I can't lie. The body is telling the truth.
That's right.
And so it had some surprises that came up, but also that releasing that from the body, neurologically is amazing. And so I'm looking forward to a whole lot more.
I love your insights. That helps, that you have some of the neuroscience background. And so to clarify a bit of the how, you were going into how, what I call what we do is test. So it's a biblical principle, right? Test me, O Lord.
Yeah.
Show me any sinful, wicked, way in me. And I like to accompany that with Hebrews 12:1. Where the Lord says, strip off those things and the sins. So some things are just hanging on to us we need to get rid of. And so I don't muscle response test. What we're doing is testing the nervous system.
There we go.
Okay.
Right? We
Okay, that's
test
good.
James 1:8 if you're double-minded or single-minded. So it's called TEST, it's an acronym, the electrochemical system tool. We literally are able to test for single-minded, double-minded, which I really appreciate about that, right?
Yeah.
And you had that yesterday. I said, Adina, you're the expert in the room. And it's all recorded there, what you believe, you know. And so I just come alongside, and I've learned the protocol, founded it, but I'm just your tour guide. So we're able to test the things that are holding you down and back. They need to strip off.
Okay, so there's, again, a lot of people watching. There's probably at this point still trying to figure out what's this all about. Would you qualify it or put it in the category of inner healing, or would you call it something else?
Good question. So the definitive answer is no, it's not inner healing.
Okay.
So what we don't do as RSM practitioners, we don't counsel. There is a beautiful place in the body of Christ for counseling. We're not doing the spiritual work, so inner healing, deliverance. There's a lot of things out there in that necessary area.
Yeah.
So I call it
Yeah.
wraparound care components, all right? So the spiritual, we're not focusing on spiritual. So what we're doing is neurological work. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
So, all those things we're not doing. And those are posted on the website. We're very clear about what we're not doing.
Okay, and go ahead and give your website, because we'll hit that a couple times through the show.
Okay.
We'll have a link
Okay,
as well.
thank you. So it's www.rsmsoulspiritbody.com.
All right.
Mouthful, huh?
Yeah, one of those long ones. But, these days it's hard to find short ones anyway. So.
Well, it really succinctly says what RSM does. We focus on soul, spirit, body, because all of them need to be addressed. The reason I put it in that order, and there's some, the reason why is Ezekiel 18:31-32. So the Lord says to us, create for yourself a new mind and heart. Create for yourself a new spirit. I don't take pleasure in a man who dies. So when you begin to break that down, what does it really mean? We are a soul. The Bible talks about a spirit, the body, and then the body. But the body neurologically is presenting your belief system. So you being a soul, your unique personality, you get to think your thoughts. You get to have your emotions. Your will gets to choose it. So we normally say soul is mind, heart, will, right? And so what we're working on is those belief systems you created early in your life. And I want to touch on that a bit to make sense of the neuroscience. But we need to be able to heal soul, which impacts the spirit, which is now presenting dis-ease in the body.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Now, how did you start on this journey? Did you all of a sudden wake up and go, I want to do RSM?
Oh, no. No. So, that's going to be the why. So a little bit about my personal story, just a brief overview, because I could talk for a long, long time on that. But so my childhood is not unique, unfortunately, to a lot of people where there's been trauma. So we're talking about physical abuse, sexual abuse, severe psychological, severe neglect, and or vicarious trauma. So that's
And spiritual abuse, too.
you saw my global core over there, spiritual abuse, which, see, if there's spiritual abuse, it's going to be also trauma.
Yeah.
We won't go down that rabbit hole, but there's definitely spiritual abuse, which then will incorporate often ritualistic abuse, SRA stuff going on, okay? And those are our clients for good reasons, because we can, it's not how God created them. It's belief systems based on events we didn't ask for.
Right.
And then the programs are there. And this is why this is so effective. So bear with me for just a moment. I'm going to give you a little bit of neuroscience, okay? So we can understand when the Lord says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So when you're in the womb up to about age 3, our brain is developing, okay? And it's at the delta brainwave level. All right, just kind of hold on to it. It's a Hertz thing, okay? And then after age 3, about approximately 3 to 13, you're sitting at theta. Your brain's developing and resonating at that Hertz. And then approximately after age 13, we're at beta. We're now talking at beta brainwave. So what is our conscious mind now? Well, here's the challenge, you guys. So be transformed by the renewing of your mind. What about those beliefs you created and the DNA that was activated, because we do have a genetics.
Right.
Up to between in the womb up to about age 3. And by age 3, we're all hardwired for attachment. By age 3, okay? Now, that's a delta. So wherever you create a belief system, that's where it's stored and held. Okay, so then after 3 to 13, you're at theta, and then after that. So what we have to do is, we weren't unconscious at age 3. We were conscious. This is
Yeah.
where our brain was working and functioning. So it's like an archaeological dig. We've got to get back to I call it the inception. It's like a seed.
Yeah.
So forget the roots. You had a seed. Your thoughts started somewhere, and then it got planted and it flourished. We're looking for those thistles and thorns, not the good seed that was dropped on the ground and
right.
the birds ate it. We're looking for the thorns and the thistles, those ugly plants. And so in our process, we go back to the activating event around a belief system. We look at at some of the events in the life up to present time, the impact. So we're taking non-conscious, because it's stored there, up to conscious mind in order to discover and dismantle neurologically. We'll take you through a process that you are able to begin that detox process. And then glial cells come out, and it depends on how many night cycles it takes to dismantle that.
Okay, so
that make sense,
Well, it's way over my head. But Caroline Leaf, there's
Yes,
a lot of people
love
have kind
her.
of been engaged in that and begin to understand or pretend we understand. But that there's so much there,
Yes, there
much
is.
good stuff that we can learn from that, and that you've obviously studied it and you've gone a whole lot deeper. How long have you been doing this?
So my journey began with creating the protocol when I was 35. Can I back up a little bit
Yeah.
to that to lay a foundation of this? Will go back to your question of the why. So with my background in trauma, sexual abuse, until about age of 6. Now I just told you about the brain, right? So I am hardwired for abuse.
Yeah.
That's how I do attachment, because that was in my family
Interesting.
system. Okay.
The way you word it, I don't like it, but I
No.
hear it.
Right.
It settles in a new way, so that it's like, I think a lot of people, the way you just said that, would really connect
Good.
with that.
It makes
Hardwired to
sense.
connect
Yeah,
through
right.
abuse.
Yeah.
And it's sad, because that is
Yeah,
not how
yeah.
God created us.
Right.
But based on our events, genetic code, and what's modeled, we are creating belief systems that now become inaccessible to us at this age. When we finally are kind of go, wait a minute, we've moved from pre-contemplative to contemplative. I think I've got an issue here. I'd like to heal it. But when it's stored down in the now non-conscious or unconscious, how do you safely and effectively get there? So here's my challenge. When I was in my late 20s, I was married and to an abusive man, and physically abusive. And I didn't know why, but I started having panic attacks. I wasn't aware of it until the doctor pointed it out, but I was anorexia nervosa. I'm 5'8", and I was 97 pounds. And I was purging what little I ate. Again, it was kind of like it just started happening. It turned out to be genetic code.
Wow.
Maternal
Yeah.
side.
Wow.
So I didn't know any of that. All I knew is that I was presenting problems, panic attacks out of nowhere. I'm driving along, all of a sudden, it was scary, and I didn't understand what was happening. Now, being a Christian, it's like, Lord help me. There was also this tinnitus thing that drove me into the doctor, and he said, let's put that on the side, and let's look at anorexia nervosa, which is a whole new concept to me. It's like, what? What are you talking about? You don't see it when you're in the middle of it, you guys. You
Right.
can't see what you can't see till you can see it.
Yeah.
Right? Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Most of us are walking around blind, and we don't
Yeah.
even know we have a problem.
It's true.
Right? Till someone
Mm-hmm.
goes, here's a mirror, you got a problem. And so I went home, and I was speaking to my husband. I said, I think I need some help, because I'm doing a food journal. He said, do a food journal. I thought, I got a problem. And he did not want me to get help for all his reasons. And so I was left just like in a quandary. So I started crying out to God, who is faithful. I said, Lord, help me, crying out, help me, help me. And this is the supernatural bit and the wonder of the Lord's faithfulness. But I literally, sitting that next week on the couch, folding clothes, just had 2 small children running around. The Lord opened up this big screen. My eyes are open, and I'm looking at, what? Now, he's done that earlier in my life. So it's like, what are you doing? And he started showing me, and gave me the protocol this way. So God was my first therapist.
Yeah.
12 sessions once a week for 3 months.
Hmm.
Now, even God didn't go, bam, there you are, right? It doesn't happen that way, you guys.
Yeah.
All right?
It's a process. It's important.
Great word.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what was interesting, it wasn't until the 12th session that he actually got into the first and only session with sexual abuse. And so he would take me back in time and he'd show me something on the screen in a way that I knew it didn't happen, but I was being able to engage supernaturally with the emotionality of what I was watching. It was fascinating. So sometimes I'm in the scene and sometimes I'm watching, but I'm engaging.
Yeah.
And then it's like a director says, cut, let's do that again. And he re-rolled the camera. And we went through the same scenes, but he did the restore. Remember we did the
Yes,
restore?
yes.
So, okay, imagine something new, the shift. What is the truth? How would God want that to have gone?
Yeah.
And that's what he showed me. And so 12 sessions later with the Lord, I just naturally, my behavior, because behavior follows thoughts. So we're all trying to train our behavior, but it's based on how we think and feel. What's stored in the in the basement we can't get to. And so after 12 sessions with the Father, I was no longer purging. I started gaining weight and eating. I recognized tinnitus was not tinnitus. It was demonic. I bound it, never came back again, which was interesting, right? So I 4 years later was out of that abusive marriage. And I was functioning. God got me functioning, and that was awesome. But I began to realize I still had some problems. I kept going, is there a target on my back? Am I just, what is it with me and abusive men? I mean, and I would really, I don't have recovered memories. I remember abuse, okay? So it's not rocket science when we know we've been traumatized that there is attachment issues. Right? How we're doing relationships. But for the life of me, I could not figure out why I'm bringing in these men that would be abusive. So it drove me into the church. And so for 2 years, I did everything. Inner healing, counseling, deliverance, everything that was known, I did because I earnestly wanted to be healed.
Yeah.
Okay? But you can't fool me because I had 12 sessions of true transformation. So I had a point of reference, if you will. Does it make sense? And so, because a lot of wonderful people, they just keep doing the same thing, hoping for different results.
Yes.
I call that insanity. But I was blessed because I had a foundational example of God healing me and the protocol that took. So I began to go, okay, God, I got a challenge here. You did supernatural. How do we do what you did in the supernatural and do it naturally?
Yeah.
So gold teeth, people pray, and some people get gold teeth. Okay, I never got gold teeth.
Okay.
I had to go to the dentist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my cry for the Lord. So mid-30s, when I walked out of that, 2 years later, said, I tried. I gave it my best shot. It didn't work. Now you're going to have to help me. Save me from myself. Second time I cried out to the Lord in earnest, save me from myself, because I'm hurting people around me. And that's when he took me on this next decade of journey to understand neuroscience and quantum physics. And I began to put a protocol together based on what he'd shown me, and then things that I was understanding. Well, we got to include, like you saw, categories and the things that I've incorporated. So it's been this incredible journey. It's been long.
Wow.
But I really hope this gives hope to
Yes.
our listeners who
Thank you.
maybe have been on that, hamster wheel of inner healing and deliverance and in that flow. And, our experiences, it helped. Some helped.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, each one was a part of the journey, and it was another kind of leveling up. But it's like the goal seems so far out there.
Yeah.
That's well
Some
said.
people don't think they're going to ever get there until they die and get to heaven. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. I mean,
Yes.
you don't have to wait for that. That there can be healing here. I don't know that we ever reach the perfected. I'm believing that someday there will be some that will start to. That's just my personal belief. But currently, I have not met any that have reached that perfected state. But just believing that in this next age, that things are really going to start to change and shift, and we're going to see some healing that we've never seen before. And I'm talking about more the emotional, because all the physical stuff. I believe that if we perfectly loved ourselves, that the body would not have any problems, that it would heal itself.
He's
Yeah.
brilliant. But that's true, right? Because that's the second commandment.
Yeah.
I call it second commandment loosely. Okay, so love God, love others as you love yourself, and
Yeah.
that's why we dedicate. There's a whole global called self-identity. We've got to come back into who did God create each of us to
Yeah.
be. You're brilliant, Gil, for looking at that, because if we are connected to our source of who created us and love Him, then we see ourselves through His eyes. Then we can reach out to the world. I think a lot of us are going from there to there, and we don't even know how to heal. this, the broken heart, Isaiah 61:1.
So that's what we need are the tools. So, I mean, you're bringing a very significant tool that has helped you. It's helped many people.
It has.
And, and we teach in our immersion retreats. In fact, that's what we spend a lot of time doing is engaging with what I call our perfected self. The one that is fully, completely engaged and knows that there's nothing more to complete or, that they are complete and that they fully love themselves, fully confident, not an arrogant love, not a prideful love, but a confident love that brings humility, in their own life. So, but we need the tools to work it out in this linear timeline, to work it out so that we can reach that place. And I love this. This is another tool.
Thank
And
you.
I see a lot of clients, who come to me saying, I have done session after session after session of inner healing, and in one session, you have just nailed for me the depth of the root system. That's the difference between top down, at the conscious level, trying to figure out what's going on versus bottom up, getting to that delta brainwave that Rochelle mentioned, right? And resolving the seed even of the root system. And so in one session, you've just made sense of everything for me. It's amazing.
So, Carissa, tell us a little bit about your part in this whole thing, because you've come all the way here from San Jose, California, and there's an important part that you play. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your experience and what's going on here.
Okay, yeah. Well, I first got into RSM. I tell everyone my story of Monday coming to work and not remembering the weekend. People would ask, what did you do over your weekend? And I couldn't remember it. But see, I didn't realize I had a problem. I didn't even think twice about that. Thought it was normal. But a friend of mine went and did a session with a local practitioner in San Jose, said, this is amazing. You need to consider this. And so because I trusted him, I went and in that first session saw how effective RSM really was. And it helped me see what I couldn't see before. And in that, I started continuing the journey. And what I really loved for myself personally, because I didn't realize, again, how shut down I was, that it wasn't about my conscious ability to get to those root systems, because we would have been just sitting there in silence if it were, And so it wasn't even about what we might call the presenting symptom or the behavior for me. I didn't come into it with, I have this strong issue in my life that I need to deal with. But because there's a start and a finish to the RSM journey, and every session there's a location that we're helping that client move through and resolve and process, I could see how it was so effective, and I began to come alive again. And I remember having this moment in bed where I had done, throughout the course of the RSM journey, hit this depth of recognizing I need to be willing to connect dots within myself and come alive again. And it felt like a computer that was restarting. Like there was I hit the restart button, and I could start to, and I grew up in the church, and I love Jesus, but the ability to see him, to hear him, all 5 of my senses experiencing him, because I started to love myself as well as fully restore relationship, loving God, nothing blocking that, and look at my attachment style that by the age of 3 was hardwired in and wasn't healthy, and began to shift those things. I began to experience God in a whole new way too.
That is so key, because we run into a lot of people on our online course and in other places who are so struggling to see and hear God.
Yeah.
And they're trying and they're striving and they're all kinds of things. Right. Yeah. And there's some tips that work, and then there's some places that they're just stuck. And I really believe this is the issue. And it's at an unconscious level. And so how can you figure it out?
Right, but you got to get to the unconscious, down back to where memories are stored, both safely and effectively. Those are really, really important, dear to my heart, because the Lord did safe and effective work on me, and He modeled that. Yeah. And so there are some elements out there that we need to have wisdom. My people perish for lack of knowledge. We need to step into knowledge and ask for wisdom. But there are some modalities. I do not advocate hypnosis, which is trying to get down to the unconscious, but it's not safe, and I'm not even go into the effective bit because they're trying to put programs in, not to take out. Because you can only do that. You have those things hardwired, and God gave us will and choice.
Yes.
So in every session, it's like Jesus said to the lame man, do you earnestly want to be healed?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the lame man, okay, he got healed physically. And that's the bit, you guys, that I think in church we don't understand. Once a person is physically healed, what you've just done is Ezekiel 18:31-32. You healed the physical, but the Lord said the next day, paraphrasing here, look at you, much better. Now go deal with what gave rise to it,
Yes.
or it could be
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
What did God mean? He had to go deal with his stinking thinking, his belief
Yeah.
systems. That's what we do. So greater things will you do than Jesus did?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking this is a bit of what Jesus didn't have time to do. He told the lame man, now go deal with it. We're doing that. We're in the trenches with people that want to go deal with a virus or their old programs and get rid of them.
Yeah, and
Does
you
that make
talk
sense?
about, sorry to cut you off, how this isn't deliverance as well, right? I see multiple clients that have come in, they've said, I've gone to deliverance after deliverance after
Yeah.
deliverance, I've gone to this big name, I've gone to this big name, and still I'm left with anxiety. And so we're working through the belief systems, even what got passed down from genetic code, the
Right.
genetics, right?
Yeah.
That then gets activated in my life. I choose the belief system, but it gets activated there, right? And they're seeing their anxiety shift when deliverance didn't shift it, because it wasn't a demonic issue. It was a belief system issue. What I'm believing that I'm not even aware of that I'm believing. That's then driving my symptoms on the surface, my
Yeah.
behavior.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
if anybody's watching and they're want to get more information or want to understand this better, if they go to your website, what are some of the things that they would see and find on your website so that they know that I can get these answers by
Okay.
going there?
So it's pretty comprehensive,
Okay.
right? And so there's a home page, and on the home page, I even have an interview that we're going to go through some of these things and epigenetics and what does that
Okay.
mean. It's pretty well laid out.
Okay.
So I appreciate the question. And then on the testimonial page, there even is some videos of people. And what I like is men on there. Because often, I don't know what it is, but women were
Yeah.
there. And, but there's some men giving testimonies of that. So I think if they go to the webpage, a lot of some questions are going to be answered. If they don't have them, we're under the practitioners, and they can always call. Chris is there, I'm there. There's practitioners they can find in their area. And if not, we do, some practitioners do online sessions.
Okay.
Now, what about somebody who's already in this field and they're like, oh wow, I want to learn how to do this. So Chris, do you want to share about that?
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
do. Yes, thank you. We have a training event, and our passion and our desire is to make this available to people who want to train, to make it financially available, to make it accessible. And so this 5-day training event called RSM Academy, we hold it twice a year, and our next event's coming up April 3rd through 8th.
And that's
And so-
2020 because
And that is in
this may be watched
2020. That's right.
sometime from now.
Yes. So, and people
Good
can
point.
go, there's a trainings tab on the website there that they
Good.
can go and they can see more information about this event. But it's $7.94 the whole time. And what they're learning in that is our basic 1 and our basic 2 material. Basic 1 being the protocol. That's something that I love about the Christian neuroemotional therapy and RSM, that there's a protocol. So as a practitioner, you're sending people away having safely dealt with the things that you looked at in the session, not having opened, I call it a can of worms, right? Opening a can of worms, even within their nervous system,
Yeah.
because we're testing the nervous system. This is neurological work, and then saying, see you later.
Yes.
And there's a lot of modalities out there like that. Tapping, being
Yeah.
one of those. Let's tap, and the concept of releasing these chemicals of emotion, but not at all processing them. So we're going to teach the protocol on how to safely and effectively take a client from start to finish in a 1-hour session. And then we're going to teach basic 2, which is the journey, that start to finish. starting out in attachment, because we all need to heal our attachment style. 0 to 3 years old, in the womb up to 3 years old, we're hardwired for that.
Right.
Right.
We got to build resilience
Exactly.
to face some of the deeper issues, like
To
we talked
face some of the
spiritual
deeper
abuse or
issues.
trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we do look at self-identity, my lens on myself, how am I seeing myself, healing that.
That's part of the journey.
Part of
Yeah.
the journey. And so people will learn about that at Academy, and they'll be fully equipped to go and to see clients. So this is good. You know, we're wanting organizations to send their people to is preferable, because then you have not only the support, but also they can go home and give each other sessions
Yes.
as they go and give those that they serve in their organization sessions, right?
Yeah.
And so it's great for organizations that are dealing with, you know, anything from trauma, any identity issues, raising people up in their destiny. This is a
Yes.
great tool, right? That's a passion of
Yes,
ours, is to
yes.
see people
And
really
yours.
set free to go do what they're called to do on the earth
Absolutely.
for such a time as this,
Yeah.
right? Addiction, I know Rochelle has a lot to say about that, but those who deal with those that are coming out of addictions, how dealing with the root systems, the belief systems that are driving my behavior is going to free and change, totally shift the behavior.
Yeah.
And so organizations, those who want to just see friends and family, and then also those that are professionals, either health professionals or in the mental health field, this would be an excellent addition and tool to their practice, to their
Yeah.
already existing practice.
Now, I'd like to speak to that just a moment, because my background as a clinical mental health counselor and as specialist in trauma field, we need to have Christian counselors adding to their tool belt.
Right,
Yes.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
and neuroemotional was back in 2008, which seems like a long time ago, okay? As I get older, time goes by pretty quickly. But in 2008, both the American Counseling Association and the American Association of Christian Counselors, I'm a member of both of those parties, they came out with, in 2008, talking about neuroscience and the need for the technique that we now have a body of evidence, and we
Yeah.
are an evidence-based therapy now, okay? That every mental health person should be incorporating into their practice what now is knowledge that they need to be doing. What's fascinating is the ACA actually went as far as to say it will become unethical for
Yeah.
mental health
Yeah.
people not to be understanding and utilizing this tool. So my cry is for people who are in the professional field. Clearly they've invested time, money, resources to become counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, but for them to be able to add to their tool belt, to be able to go bottom up. Let's really transform that mind. Let's
Right.
heal the soul.
Well, and it's to me a little bit like the medical field, where they are treating symptoms but not trying
The
to
roots.
prevent.
That's right.
Yeah. Or deal with, you know, what's causing this, versus let's just fix the symptoms. Let's just cover it up, put a Band-Aid on it.
Yes.
So, okay, if someone misses this training that's coming up, I'm assuming you have multiple trainings every year, or
Yes,
okay.
we
So
do.
if they go to your website, they're going to find out
They
when
will.
when the next
The
one
next
is.
one's in September.
Okay.
And so that would give people time, you know, to plan for that and to prepare for that.
And there's some
Yeah.
requirements too. Somebody
Yes,
can't
thank
just
you.
come and
Thank
train.
you. Yes.
There are, and that's going to be outlined there. There's an attachment webinar and the trauma webinar that I've put together. It's posted for the public. And even if you don't want to train, if you want some great information, I think everyone in ministry should be watching those two webinars. And I provide their material, and they can laminate some of these things in order to get it into what they're dealing with, attachment and then trauma. And so, but it's preparatory. Thank you for bringing it up, Dina.
Well, and to speak into that for a moment, kind of brag on you and all of your expertise, I work with a lot of people who've had training, even counselors that are counselors themselves, professionals, saying, I need what you do. I need to get to the bottom, to the root systems of this. And it's profound, the sessions with them, right? Because they have all the training in attachment. They understand it. But in that attachment webinar, because of the masters in attachment that Rochelle went through, there's proprietary information there that she put together around attachment. And people see the chart and they're like, that is the clearest explanation I've ever seen of attachment. And this is after years of their own personal training in this.
Yeah.
And they see it and they go, I get it now. So it's really a profound webinar that anyone can and should watch.
Now, okay, I just want to make sure that now the training, is it via a webinar or is it come to a location?
We have both. We have
all right.
both. And so literally in order to move through all the training components, and then with the goal of becoming certified,
Yeah.
right? Have all the pieces. I like to roll with excellence. And so there is a basic 1, 2, and 3. The 3 is going to be a webinar. I used to do it in person. Will not be doing it this year in person. We'll get it as a webinar. And then there's these 2 webinars for attachment and trauma. And to be certified, all those 5 components need to be moved through. But prior to Academy, there's a requirement to look at the webinar, attachment, and there are 2 books. One by, you mentioned Dr. Caroline Leaf, Christian neuroscientist. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so she explains how the brain works. Now she does go then from top down, and so I'm standing on her shoulders. Thank the Lord for a forerunner to explain that.
Yes.
And then Dr. Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief. He's a neuroscientist, which he used to say he was an atheist because you cannot see what I'm seeing
Yes.
at the subatomic level and not believe there's a creator. That's pretty
That's good.
exciting, you guys.
Yeah.
And so this is where we are working with this depth of knowledge, and with epigenetics and quantum physics. That is what RSM is, but grounded on the Word of God. It's exciting.
It's so good.
Yeah, so another prerequisite for Academy is 10 sessions received personally.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons that we set that is because we say you cannot lead where you haven't trod.
Yeah.
Been willing to go to within your own self to heal and earnestly want to be healed to then lead other clients to that place. And so we're willing to work with people on that, especially if they want to train as soon as April, and they can contact me. My information's there on that webpage. So.
Okay. Now, how long, can you give like a typical scenario, and I'm guessing no, but can you give a typical scenario on how long it actually takes? Or
Yes.
is it kind of all over the board?
No,
What's-
actually, yes.
Okay.
Because we do have that journey, and I liken it to get out of Egypt, go through the wilderness, land in the promised land. That is our goal. And so, and I had showed Adina our chart that you get your chart in Basic 2. It's proprietary information, and it's all copyrighted. And so, but if someone came in and everyone has secure attachment issues, how do we do relationship, and then self-identity, which you touched on, we need to be who God created us to be. I call it true identity, because the outcome must be true destiny. Why are you here? Why am I here? Why are we here? And so we come prepackaged for who we are and our destiny. And so if someone came in and everyone has those 2 global cores, then we're looking probably approximately about 33 sessions. But then if someone has trauma global core to look at, they've had trauma in their life, as I identified it, and then spiritual abuse, which has specific categories. And let me list off those categories. Spiritual abuse, how I'm going to look at that is if there has been occult, intentional service of Satan, cult, wrong God, okay, used abusively, religion, right God, but used abusively, right? And then there's this demonic activity that's going on. There is a global core for those people that have been in that, and that's why if anyone has ritual abuse, SRA, satanic ritual abuse, they have them, both of those, trauma and spiritual abuse. So let's just say worst case scenario, that is going to put them approximately, as long as they just hit each one, they're not toe dipping, because they're going to go to where they can go and handle the detox. But I've seen a person nail all of that in 54 sessions. That's phenomenal. And that person saw me once a week. So he had already had decades of work, and we were able to nail it in just a little over a year.
That's phenomenal. And I like that you have a beginning and you have an end goal.
Yes.
Because so
Me
much
too.
of inner healing deliverance is just like, okay, we keep going. Am I better? Am I not? And well, now I need,
Yeah.
And so to be able to have a finish line, I think that's encouraging for people.
I think so, and Gil, I liked what you said, because how did you word it? It was lovely. I have to get that in my brain. What'd you say? Because
Engage in your perfected self.
perfected self.
Yeah.
That is lovely. I might just take that from you. I'll quote you. I'll let them know. This is from Gil Hodges. But there is an end to the journey, and it doesn't mean that we, once we cross over into glory, that's going to be the finish. It's going to be amazing. But there has to be a place where we look at what I call the blocks, the belief that blocks us from perfected self. And so otherwise we do things that impinge us slightly, we never get done. So we are tapping into the hard drive, finding that virus that blocks the person from loving God, loving himself, loving others, and moving forward into their destiny.
It's
Yeah.
so good
That's-
because we run across people over and over who their desire, their intention is to do right, to serve the Lord, to be full, bore in everything. But you see these stuck places.
Yes.
And they go for prayer. They go for more prayer, and they go for more prayer, and that it feels like God's not answering.
Well, and for them, it almost becomes hopeless because there's you keep stepping out in faith,
Yes.
but not feeling like you're making any gains. It feels like you just keep coming right back to where you were. It's like I see it as a rubber band or a tether. You can only get so far out and it snaps you back. You got to
Yes.
take care of the tether, the rubber band.
That's where I was at 35, and I'm glad you said, because it just touches my heart deeply, because I just like, Lord, I've got to get to the other side. I can't stay here. And so that is where I was stuck when I was 35. I said, I'm done with that. If there's anything out there that works, that will do what you supernaturally did, how do I put in place where I can naturally do that? And
Yeah.
that is what took time to develop, but that's what we have now.
And so what you have, and I'm looking at this as it's another tool.
Yes.
It seems to be, from everything I'm hearing, a very effective tool. My wife will be able to testify to that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And yet there's a lot of different tools out there. But so I would just again say to everybody who's if you're on the journey, if you're actually we've talked about the 3 plumb lines. If you're on that journey and you're stepping out, you're moving forward. We do teach this session called Engaging Your Perfected Self. And to me, that perfected self that you're engaging with is your Colossians 2:10 self that is already complete in Christ.
Yes.
And so we are complete in Him. So it's not who we become, it's who we are. And you just said it, you touched on it, that our job here is really just breaking out of the matrix of lies that have been piled on us from our DNA, from life, from situations. All of that
Right.
piled on us. And so our job is basically breaking out of all that so that we can then engage and see the full truth of who we really are and walk
Yes.
that out. But we have this linear timeline that we're in now that we have to walk that out in. And so it can be really frustrating for those who are even engaging with their perfected self, or just know that things aren't right, and yet they keep running into that wall. So here is another tool that it sounds fantastic. And definitely encourage you to go to the website, check it out, get more information. And now, do they have to sign up? I mean, is it a package deal? Are you locked in until you're healed? How's that
It's
work?
a journey, right? It's a journey. And I did want to, Krista, we had talked about this a little bit, what would be near and dear to God's heart to share, to encourage people. And there is what you're talking about. People our age were hopefully aware of our issues. We're in the contemplative, okay, I got something. But she had some wonderful testimonies about children. I've worked on babies up to people in their 80s, okay?
Yeah.
So at any life stage. But my heart, and I think it reflects what God wants for all of us, because, we're seasoned saints. But if we can help the children,
Yeah.
by age 3, you're hardwired for
Yes.
attachment, okay? What if we were able to work with the children and strip off that they're not even aware of yet, what is going to hold them back? If I had this, I wouldn't have made the decisions that kept me on a path of abuse.
Yeah.
All right? I wouldn't have. And so, could you share your
Yes.
testimonies, we don't break confidentiality, but do we have time to just share?
Yeah, we're doing good. We got
Okay,
at least
okay.
15, 20 more minutes. I
Thank
do want
you.
to apologize apologize to everyone because I know you're going to hear there's some construction going on in the background, so just apologize for that. There's a little bit of banging, so just stay focused on what we're saying.
Yes. Well, yeah, I was sharing with Rochelle that I love seeing clients of all ages, but especially the kids. And I had a little girl, 9 years old, come to me with high anxiety, couldn't leave her mom's side. I mean, just really feeling that. And we worked together, you know, and over the course of the journey, she hit that breakthrough moment where I will never forget. She came to me with eyes gleaming. Guess what? I spent the night away from my mom for the first time ever. And then the shifts and the changes continually happening since then. And she just sent me a message saying, I went away from mom for a whole week and I wasn't afraid. She's experiencing God at this heart level, him coming through for her, protecting her, speaking to her, and she's able to flourish and start to discover as she grows, who am I really? Who is true me? And really being able to express that. Working with a little boy who has ADD, focus issues, and he's beginning to see himself focus in on his schoolwork. It's been amazing. And his parents are just amazed, like, wow, we didn't think this was possible for our kid to focus in. We didn't realize that ADD was rooted in his belief systems, how he was thinking. I'm working with a teenager right now who's been diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder. And so, right. So when he first came in to my session room, he couldn't even look me in the eye. You know, he's just looking down here like this. And by the third session, I'm beginning to, even in his behavior, see his attachment style healed. It's amazing. He's engaging with me. He's looking me in the eye. You know, he's leaning in during the processing phase, and the things that he's able to articulate back to me about what he is seeing as he's processing, even neurologically, is profound.
Is he the one that asked his mom to keep coming back to you?
No, so there's another little boy who, but he is one whose parents have noticed the shift. His teachers noticed the shift. In fact, said, "What are you doing different?" Because they noticed such a shift. But no, there was another little boy who came and saw me, and the very next day, his mom said, "It's amazing. Everything you worked on in the session totally changed. We haven't looked back since, and he's begging me for the next session with you because
He's
he
begging.
has experienced how life-changing it was. You know, one thing that came up in the midst of, because this is where we start out with every client, attachment safety. Am I safe? Are you safe with me, and am I safe with you? We've got to heal it up before we move on. And so healing that up, and one of the things that came up was being exhausted at school because school wasn't safe, because of some of the things that had happened. And so immediately the next day he comes home with energy. He goes, "Guess what, Mom? I wasn't tired at school."
That's so good.
It's just really
So
neat
good.
to see those shifts.
Now, kind of a yes or no question, because I have a follow-up question. Have you run into people that just don't get healed? They just don't get set free. Have you run into that?
I'd like to answer that. No, yes. So,
Because I wanted to ask the next question. The
Right.
next question would have been, so what are some of the things that kind of stand in the way for someone to go through that?
and
So-
that would be, right, yes, so because this works. So do you earnestly want to be healed? We have a tool that gets into the cellular information at the inception, brings it up to the surface, the conscious mind, so they can then process it neurologically, and then we go into the neurogenesis process. So they intentionally get to focus on truth after that. So this is I've not seen anyone who could not do it. Everyone who comes in, there is a shift. Now, the other part is, I've had several clients. One gentleman example, he had the beginning of Parkinson's. And it was his wife that wanted him to come in to see me, okay? She doesn't want to see her husband go down that path. And so during our first session, he engaged. We went through the process. He came back the next session and with clear awareness of the shift. He locked up. He would not look at his next session. And Sorry, there is construction going on here. And
It's
so
kind of like a symbol of what's going on in our life. We need to keep that.
Great analogy. We are deconstructing to reconstruct. And so what happened is we had a very challenging session getting through that, and I'm knowing, because I know how this works, like he's fighting. He doesn't earnestly want to be healed. So he did the second session. He comes back. He did not rewire. Now, that's a part of what can happen. So we've got a protocol, a test. What is that? And so he consciously was able to say, I do not want to heal. And his poor wife is sitting there, and she's beginning to tear up. And I unpacked it, so let's slice that a little bit thinner to help us, because I'm hoping I can help them work through that.
Yeah.
And he said, no, because I've worked my life very hard for all my family. So his lens was, I've done all of this work and no one's been here for me. And so now it's my time for people to serve me, for me to go offline. And I was, of course, I'm appalled, because it's like, wait a minute, what? You could still be healed and put in healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
But he didn't have that lens. And so he didn't come back, and it did not go well for him.
But speaking of physical issues, I worked with a client who was going through high-dose chemo for lymphoma and very weak, lost all their hair in bed, and we were still able to do sessions. And they told me, they actually were telling me, I know I need a session. I know there's belief systems here. They could just sense and feel it. They were further along in their journey too, that are driving this physical disease.
Yes.
Neuroscience says 90%,
Over 90%.
9%, some studies show, is of your physical symptoms are rooted in your emotional and your way of
Your
how you
belief
think
system.
and feel in your belief
Yeah.
systems, right? And so in that, I was going to say emotional disease, which is your belief
Yes.
systems.
Yes.
And so, but we hit a session where they said they felt their body starting to go back up again. And from that point, there was this shift, even physically. And now they're in amazing health and totally new personality. I've never seen this client in, because
True
they hit that
identity.
shift of, being able to resolve things in their life.
So you mentioned 90%, or you even said 90. I'm there's no science for this, obviously, but believing that 100%, is in our belief system, because I've shared this before, and people have heard me say it. But you take away your spirit, this whole body here is going to just crumble and turn back into dirt and dust. So when we talk about our mind and a thought process, there's a lot more involved that our spirit is engaging with. And so it is, a process that we all need to understand that the body is great and we need to work on it. We need to take care of it.
Yes.
But this emotional stuff and the spiritual stuff is so key to get taken care of, so that the body can be healthy.
Yes, and that's
Yes.
the order that we look at it. And I like how you talked earlier, Gil, about, are we just chasing symptoms, whether they're physical disease or addictions, behaviors or outcome of how we think. So let's get that horse back in front of the cart.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Let's work on what we need to, so that we can rise into our destiny, be healed and whole and victorious in our life. We're going to cross over. I don't want to do it on my face. I want to run into glory.
Yeah.
Victorious.
Right. No, that's good. That's good.
All right.
So, well, do you want to share any of your experience, or is that too personal?
Well, I'm still in process, but
We all are.
really,
Share the journey.
it was very valuable. I don't know how much I can really share that would be useful on here. I would just say try it. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Let's see what time we have. We have about 5 minutes. So I guess the question would be then, with 5 minutes left, what are some of the final things that you want to tell anybody who's watching, as far as an encouragement, or where to go to, maybe give your website one more time, and again, what are they going to find there? Why would they want to go there to, get more information? And is it, I guess another question I had, which, I don't know if you want to share. They'll get it when they go to the website. But is this going to be expensive? Is it going to be a long haul, or what would be your answer to that? And I have an answer, but
Okay. And so there's so many things you just said.
I know.
But okay, so if you go on the website
Yep.
and across the top, you look at find a practitioner. There's little drop downs. You're going to see the forms, and there's an intake and a consent form. And on the consent form, it's going to unpack. The fees will be there, that certified practitioners, that's their form. And so all of that will be answered there. Is it expensive? I mean, how expensive is Parkinson's? How expensive
that was going to be
is
my
cancer?
answer. Exactly,
So instead
Yeah.
of waiting
Yeah.
till that takes
Right.
root,
Yeah.
how about, it's like organic. Okay, I like holistic approach, and I'd rather pay a little bit more on the front end.
Yeah.
And have the vitality and wellness and whole being, than wait to the back end and trying to play catch up.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it
Go
reminds
ahead.
me of that one client you mentioned who had been going to counseling, talk therapy
yeah.
sessions for their entire life
Mm-hmm.
and spent thousands of dollars since they were in their teenage years going, and said to you, for the first time ever, I can see the end
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah.
And all that money that they had spent, that was ineffective for them.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
So-
so, what's your life worth?
Exactly. Yeah, and that was kind of where I was going, because a lot of people are going to be interested, and they're going to look at it, and it's sad, but a lot of people, I'm not even going to categorize anyone, but there's just a lot of people that want stuff. They want everything for free. It's the entitlement, and
Right.
and then they don't really look at what you just shared. Is like, well, how important is your health to you? How important is your mental health? But then you've got what you just talked about, the gentleman who didn't want to be healed because he
Yeah.
had some belief systems that
That's right. And the labor is worth his hire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, there are biblical
Exactly.
principles
Yeah.
that I don't understand that aren't in the church. There's a lot of people, like you said, the free, but free, there's no skin in the game. I was doing this for a long time for free because I was putting the protocol together and I was helping my family and friends. But the Lord started pushing me into charging the referrals. And that was very hard because my heart is to set the captives free. And so I started doing it. And what I realized is those people who had skin in the game, they valued
Absolutely.
what they were
Absolutely.
doing, and they were committed to that.
Yeah.
And so as RSM practitioners come in, they're trained, they're putting in their resources, they're studying, they're learning. And so the Lord is, if the Lord is calling one of you, you're going to be putting and investing yourself. And again, I think it's a godly principle that we pay. Even the disciples were blessed and provisioned. And so I want people to be blessed on all around, whether they're clients and they're getting healed, and or practitioners, so that as you become a practitioner, you put up an investment. You can have people sponsor you to go, so that then you go back and say, okay, you've sponsored me here, let me work on you, and to do this maybe for free, limit it. But then as that practitioner who is investing in what God has called them to do, they get blessed. And I like that. I want a win-win
Yes,
Right.
in all
Right.
this, for all of us.
Yeah, and so on that note, we're looking for women and men who want to train to become practitioners, to bring Christian neuroemotional therapy nationally and internationally, and see it as an investment into training. It's really accessible, and perhaps if you're low on the funds, someone could donate, and you could come home and give them sessions once you see towards that training fee, right, as an investment into you, or perhaps that's something that you see, I'm going to make this back as a practitioner because I'm going to be fully equipped with excellence because we train that and we teach that and we live that and inspire our practitioners to live that, excellence and constantly learning and constantly increasing for our clients. But I'm going to be able to go home and see clients and make this investment back.
Yeah.
So good.
It is.
All right. Well, thank both of you for being on here, and
Yes.
thank you
Thank
for,
you.
I just want to say thank you to you for being obedient to the Lord as He downloaded this to you, and that
Yes.
you've been able to develop that out. So thank you for that.
It's been a journey. He's faithful, though, right?
Yes.
He is faithful.
Yes.
And you have to ask yourselves, when you see a person on top of a mountain, they didn't fall there.
Yes.
Right.
Right, you guys didn't
Yes.
fall on this mountain. And so
Right.
when the Lord calls us, there's that courage and tenacity to go after what God has called us to do.
Yeah.
And I love the community of people that are moving up their mountain,
Yeah.
and it's work, and it takes courage and tenacity, right? And
does.
there is sacrifice, and you
Yeah.
guys have done that. And so we want to say thank you again to both of you. It's been a joy to begin to get to know you, and every time I look at one of your videos or I hear about, just like, Lord, thank you for these people. You're being courageous. You're going up a mountain and you're calling other people up there. So thank you for
Yeah.
what you're promoting here, what we're doing, and other people in the body.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our listeners. We just are so appreciative of each and every one of you. Again, if you'd like to become a partner, there's the website up over there that you can go to kingdomtalksmedia.com. Look for the partner section. Also, look for the courses. We got a lot of courses there, and all of our shows are there as well. Encourage you to go there and check it out. And we just thank each and every one of you, and we love you. Take care.
Bless you.
Bye-bye.